Good evening, everybody. It's
Hello.
a beautiful Thursday evening. Hi, David.
Hi, everyone.
It's Denise Iwaniw-Francisco and David Fix, the artist behind the Mystics Heart and Hearth Productions. And we're excited to be here with you tonight through the Temple Within and the School of Sacred Studies, and of course, the Mystics Heart Merchants of Light. David, say hello to everybody.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. Maybe some of you just got the notification from Be Live through Facebook that we were starting this a few minutes ago. So if that's you, welcome. And thanks for sharing the evening with us.
Mm-hmm. For those of you that are joining us, if you would be so kind as to like and share this broadcast, that would be fantastic. And I'm going to take just a moment to go ahead and share this with some of our friends around the globe. And in the meantime, David, would you just talk for a moment about how it is that you came into being the Mystic Heart and the Hearth Production artist?
Well, it's a long story. Basically, for most of my adult life, I've been craving mystical experiences and knowledge, and art is a big part of that through music and video and artistic drawings, photography. And so that was my path for probably 20 years before I met you, Denise. And I remember one of my first readings with Denise, I brought maybe 15 different envelopes with different ideas about creative ideas to pursue. Like one was to make postcards, one was to make a CD called The Theology of Romeo and Juliet, which that got nixed, but it's still in the back of my head. But the end result of that reading was that you said I should make, I would be good at making oracle cards and kind of combining the photography and the postcards elements. And so it was probably, that was like May 2nd, around May 2nd, because I had the reading for my birthday. And then at the end of May, you contacted me and asked me to make the first deck of cards, the Mystic Angels. And so I started working on that. That was May of 2009. And I remember I was living in Kentwood at the time, and I'm a teacher, so I had the summer off, and I was trying so hard to make those angels. And it just wasn't coming, and it was awkward and frustrating. And I remember I'd take breaks watching the Tour de France, and I think Lance Armstrong was still riding back then. And finally, it was July, end of June or beginning of July, where the first angel, Azrael, came through. And then I'm like, okay, now I understand how this works. So a lot of perspiration after that, but that one bit of inspiration really started the ball rolling.
One of the reasons that I wanted to do the show tonight is that, every Tuesday morning via Star Nations Radio Network, I have the honor of hosting the show, The Mystic's Heart. And during the course of that show, and those of you that listen to it or now tune in and watch it, hey, Katie Battle, it's good to have you with us tonight. Katie is always tuning in on Tuesdays. We get to enjoy David's amazing artwork via the Mystic's Heart Empowerment decks, all 4 of them. And one of the questions that recurs quite often is this: how long does it take David Fix to create one card in each deck? And I'm going to show some examples of his amazing artistry. This is the White Buffalo from the Spirit of Mythology Empowerment deck. It's an exquisite card, trying to hold it so that the glare doesn't cut into its beauty. There are so many amazing cards. Here is a superb card. This is Toth. from the Mysteries of Ancient Egypt Empowerment deck. This is so fun.
Yeah, so I think we've created 4 decks so far.
We have
130 some images, and different cards take a different amount of time to create. And I remember with like the Mysteries of Ancient Egypt, for example, I researched. Denise had given me the icons, the 33 icons that we were going to do for the deck, and I probably spent 6 months researching them to try to discover their mystical qualities or what was meaningful about them. And then I tried to imbue the cards with those correspondences. And so in some ways, making the cards is the actual art of creating each card, which I do on the computer with a Wacom tablet and then Wacom pen. Here's my pen right here, holder. But some of it is research and then doing things afterwards. And so it might take between 10 to 20 to 25 hours per card, depending on how well it flows. And I try to save different versions in case I have to go back. And so typically a lot of cards get up to in the 20s, like it's version Toth number 22 or Merman number 18. But some actually come through really easily, and I only have a couple versions and they just clicked. So part of the power of that, and I learned this from you, Denise, of the universe is the law of correspondences. And so this is in Toth's book, The Emerald Tablets. And so the law of correspondences, I think the gist of it is power can be augmented when you align not only the image, but the color and the shape and the constellation patterns or different sacred symbols embedded in the cards. So that's how I try to make the cards rich. And so that's what takes a long time. So I start with an idea and I sketch it on a template. And then I let the photographs that I use, let their magnetism draw me to one or another, and then I just keep on adjusting. So
they're fabulous. We had more fun on Tuesday mornings. This past Tuesday, David, I set an all-time record for the number of card draws on a Tuesday morning. It was over 40 cards that were drawn for listeners, for viewers now, to the show, The Mystic's Heart. And so when people say to me, oh my gosh, the artwork is so amazing. How does he even begin to do that? How does that coagulate in his mind? And how does it extrapolate out of his hands and onto these amazing cards? It's quite a process. Hello, Kelly Spencer and Kevin Spencer. Hi, Lily. Hi, Christian. Hey, Katie. It's good to have you all in the house tonight. And thank you for sharing this with everyone. I'm so excited to have David and I on the show tonight. This is just a way of discussing what it is that goes on behind the scenes at the Mystic's Heart. Every Tuesday when we gather, people, of course, enjoy the images. They enjoy the messages, the empowerment, the upliftment, the inspiration. And there's so much that goes on behind the scenes. It takes David and I, at the very least, 1 year to create a deck of cards, at least a year, between inception and the creation of the messages, the mantras, all of those sorts of things that go on to the back of the book, the teachings, and, of course, being graced with the artwork that goes on the cards. I'm trying to do the best I can to show them off in a good way. Hello, Rob. It's good to have you with us tonight. One of the things that I really love about my friend David is, number one, he's my friend. And number two, that we are in business together. He at Hearth Productions, me at the Temple Within. And I always say when the Temple Within and Hearth Productions meet in the middle, what we have is the mystic's heart. And so by day, David is a high school teacher. And, that's what he does with great passion as well. I know because I've met some of his students, and the students that I meet always go on and on about how wonderful it is that they get to have Mr. Fix in high school. And I think that that's such a wonderful tribute to who you are as a person, David. I mean, you're a father, you're a husband, you're a friend. We've been friends for years, and we began engaging in the mystic's heart. We were talking about that just before the show in 2009. We started to noodle around about how we could collaborate on things. And I can honestly say that you and I, in the almost 9 years that you and I have been collaborating, we have had so much fun.
Mm-hmm. It's been an adventure. And and a lot of those the images that are in the cards come from the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation and the Black Hills. And so wherever I go, either with Gathering Thunder or around Michigan, I try to use that as inspiration too, and put them into the cards. So, and I think for a lot of the images, I want to see the image head to toe, and so I try to make sure that the entire icon or animal or totem or angel fits in the card. One exception might be one of my favorite cards, which is the buffalo from the animal totem deck. So it's not the white buffalo.
Yeah, Tatanka.
Yeah. And when he came through, it was it's kind of like bulging. So he touches like the bottom and the top, and it feels like he can barely fit in that card because he's so powerful. And so
truly,
powerful card. And so I usually start with that, with the image framed in the card correctly, and then sometimes I use tricks like I take a pattern of a crop circle and I lay it out over the image to find key points that I can align the image to use that energy, and then work it into the background. And then I try to put part of what I think makes something mystical is the in between, which becomes fog or snow or blurriness or something between the viewer and the image itself. So I try to put something in the foreground to create some mystery.
Spectacular. So David, this past autumn, we had a weekend for the Mystic's Heart, and you were one of the speakers, one of the presenters at the weekend, and you talked about your understanding of the holographic universe and how your understanding of the holographic universe impacts your life and your work. Would you talk for a moment about the holographic universe?
Sure, I'd love to. This started with, I read a book by Barbara Brennan, who healer, but also literally a NASA rocket scientist. And so one paragraph in her book mentioned that the universe is organized holographically. And so that was the seed that got me thinking. And then I started noticing patterns, and by taking classes with you, Denise, reading books and learning, I started to understand that the organization of the universe is holographic, meaning the microcosms and the macrocosm, and the macrocosm is in the microcosm. So if it's the energy of the bear, for example, what does the bear represent, and how does it live, and what does it eat? And then if that's my totem, for example, then what characteristics do I have that mirror that? Because everything is a sign, and so everything's a message, and the messages are communicated holographically through symbols or symbology or interpretations. And so I remember my first reading with you, Denise, back in Rockford. One of my totems came through, which was a dragon, which was awesome. And you said that the dragon was a mountain, and then the mountain wakes up and flies away, never to be asleep again. And so that corresponded in my life with meeting you and meeting my wife, Nicole, and being on a journey of discovering the in-between and the other worlds. And so once you take a step in that direction, you can't go back. You can't unlearn something that you've discovered. And so that's one example of the holographic universe, how it works. That card right there, another favorite, Tutankhamun. Because I try to predict holographically what your message is going to be for a certain image. And for Tutankhamun, I thought it might be something about rising again, or with a tomb or something. And the message was death mask, and it's time to take off your death mask. And
yeah, removing the masks.
Yeah.
Just before the show, I was on the phone with Sandy Herrick. She called me. She was downtown in Keene, New Hampshire, having a martini, I do believe. And we were talking about the masks falling off. And she said, Dana, I'm calling you because I'm just overwhelmed with this sense of the masks falling off of people right now, not only during this season, but during this time that we're living in this time of incredible insight and healing and working with our own stuff. And healing through our own stuff. And
I remember when I think it was Carl Franklin who was speaking and said that we're going to go through this transition, the masks are going to fall away, and then it's going to be our job and everyone's job to forgive everyone. So that's the culmination. Like even in the past month, all the allegations of sexual abuse coming out from Hollywood or from CEOs or journalists, and it's one after another. And so the veil is becoming transparent, more transparent, and so is every person and our histories, our futures. And so our job during this transition, besides going through it and holding the light, is to forgive all those who have hurt us, and to forgive people who are having a public confession, right before us. Because I think there's going to be more. So
I would agree with that. Can you see the question from Rob David as the dragon is floating across the screen?
Hi, Rob.
Can you see the question that he asked?
Yeah. So when I speak of the holographic nature of the universe, I'm not thinking or speaking about the scientific nature of it. Scientifically, it may or may not be holographically organized, or we might be a holograph. I have no idea about that, but my understanding doesn't reach that far. And so I feel like I'm seeing the shadows on the wall of the cave, but I can still understand them from the shadows. And so it's an understanding that even though I don't understand how it works, I understand that it does work and that it does operate. Some revelations, some examples about how the holographic nature of the universe operates in different fields might be, like in English, it might be a metaphor. A metaphor is holographic because it's taking a symbol from one place and putting it in another. In science, it might be fractals. Fractals are one example of how the nature operates holographically. And then understanding people, like with the FBI, when the FBI tries to identify a person or profile a person, they can use their handwriting sample as a way to analyze the person. And so not only the words, but how they write the words and how they write the letters and how close they're together, and if they slant up or down, or if they're connected or not connected. And so we are constantly revealing ourselves holographically through our posture, through our words, through the retinas in our eyes, our thumbprints, and our language, our speech, our gait, how we write, our handwriting, our birth date, our name. This is why the holographic nature of the universe is the force behind astrology and the force behind face reading or palm reading or numerology. And so wherever the A is in the universe, it represents firstness. And wherever the number 1 is in the universe, it represents firstness. And that relates through symbols and language to every person's personality. So I'm kind of rambling here, but I'll give another example from the Mystic Angel deck. The last card in that deck is Saint Israfel.
Mm-hmm.
And
see if I can find Israfel.
And it's a favorite of mine. It seems to be of other people. And I wanted to create an angel that was more fluid, and because it was the last one in the deck, so this was my last chance here. So I turned it sideways a little bit and kind of blended it in with the background. And then a friend pointed out that there's an image of a bear in the card.
In the card.
Like the nose is right by the angel's hips, and then the angel's wings become the ears. And so there's an image of a bear in there that I did not put in there. But then when I turned the card over to read the message that Denise had written, it said, it's time to stop hibernating. And it's time to, you have stuff to do. And so when synchronicities happen like that, it reveals that the energy of the bear and the energy of the message and the energy of the image that I produced at some level was resonating and came through, and they aligned. That happens all the time, every second of every day. It's always happening, but we don't always see it.
Mm-hmm. David, when you were working, I remember when you were working with the mystic angels and you were creating them, you felt as though you were actually being visited or embraced by the angelics as you were creating the art. Would you talk about that for a moment? Because that's also holographic. Your thought was on angels, you were moving angelic energy through your body, and then you felt as though you were in the presence of.
Right, and a magical feeling. Probably like a lot of people, I'm jealous of the gifts that you have, Denise, or my wife, Nicole, other people. And I go to some of your classes and people are so advanced, and I feel in awe and inspired too. So when I go to create my art, I just try to create that mindset of, inviting that image into me, inviting that angel, for example, to be present and to channel through me the way it wants to be represented. So it's a way of turning off my brain, actually. And for different decks, I've used different music, different Pandora stations, or different incense to take care of my monkey mind, so that when I create it, I just let the vibration come through me, and I balance that with thinking too. So I do it, I step back and look at it, I get into it again, I step back. So the closer a person gets to their art, I think the more communion is happening. So I
love that. And for myself, when I looked at your artwork as you were creating it. The process goes something like this, everybody. I will, get a hold of David and I will say, hey, David, that's what I call him affectionately, David. I will say, hey, David, what do you think about creating a deck of mystic angels? Let's do that. And you are right about that, Crazy. She's saying, Kelly is saying, well, I am in awe of you, David. Your gifts are crazy good. Amen to that one. There's no doubt about that. And so when we have this conversation and he agrees or disagrees, or, we talk about, where we would like to take the project, it's not, we always work in tandem with one another. There's never a time when I run away with a project or he runs away with a project. We're always in communication and we're always tossing ideas back and forth so that everything is in balance on both sides of the card, on both sides of the coin. And we have great discussions. And so for me, when the artwork begins to come through, I look at David's artwork that I am in complete and utter awe of. The way that, if, for instance, when I give perhaps to you Thoth from the mysteries of ancient Egypt, and all of a sudden there is this spectacular piece of art that comes through you in unlike anybody else's artwork in the history of the universe. I don't know, what constellation or cosmic system you are channeling from, but your artwork is so different than anyone else's. And so when I sit with the artwork, the message on the back of the card, the daily mantra, the teaching that goes onto the card literally lifts up off of the card and comes to me. It's as though the being that is impressed upon the card, for instance, the goddess Bastet, one of my very favorites from the Mysteries of Ancient Egypt deck. All of a sudden, there's a communication with spirit influenced by the energy or the archetype of the goddess Bastet. And that's how we work. And I think that that's why we are so successful as friends and as business partners, is because of this flow. And it really is a cosmic or a spiritual flow that works so beautifully together. And if somebody were to ask you, what do you think is the onus of our work together at the Mystic's Heart? For me, it's empowerment and education. How would you describe what it is that we do, Dave?
Oh, that's great. That was great. Yeah, I agree. The collaboration that we do hinges on each of our unique desires to empower other people and even to empower ourselves. Mm-hmm. I got a reading from Carl Franklin again, and he said, like, one of the missions of my life is to empower people, which mm-hmm. is, I love. And mm-hmm. When you came up with, you told me that all the decks are going to be empowerment decks. That resonated with like how I teach school and how I think. And so it's a joy to empower other people. That's how I think. So I'm empowered by my students, and I'm empowered by the people I meet, my family, and people in your class, and of course you, Denise. And so it's a joy to pass that on as well. So, and I like the layers. One of my friends, I was showing one of my friends the cards and the artwork and the messages, and he said, I really like the messages and I really like the artwork, but when you put them together, it just becomes a whole nother level. And I remember seeing this movie about an artist called Basquiat. I think he was French, and he would draw letters and numbers on his art, and then he would paint over it too. But the idea of incorporating language with art, I think, really elevates it.
It's just beautiful. I never get tired of looking at these cards. And I love Tuesday mornings with everyone because I get to play with the cards again and share them with people. Hello, Judy. It's good to have you with us this evening as we're getting ready to wrap up the show tonight. Just sharing with everybody David's talents. Because so often I do get asked, how does David do what David does? And I cannot adequately describe the way that David does his work or the way that he has his way in the world. And so to have him, tonight on the show is fabulous. And right now, David and I are collaborating on something that is very near and dear to me. And most of you know that for the past 4 years, I have been working on the manuscript for my book, Prayers and Incantations to the Light, Blessings from the Mother. And it's kind of hard with the shininess of everything going on to show. But it's an absolutely beautiful book. And David and I have begun the process, of course, of creating children's books. Angels All Around Us is now out. It's in soft cover with beautiful, magnificent, colorful artwork by yours truly, David Fix. And it's also available digitally. And we're so excited about that. Now we are now working on Fairies in the Enchanted Forest for children. That's in the hopper. But in the meantime, this book, its final iteration should be coming to me this week. The final proof. This is the hardcover version of it. And just to give an idea of some of the artwork that David is including in this particular piece, I love this creation of David's.
Yeah, for this book, for the pages, at first I thought I wanted framed images, but how that floats on the page without a frame, kind of in an amorphous shape, I think great, and really turned out great with this book.
It's spectacular. All of the artwork in this particular book that David has created, not only is it spectacular, but it's also a tool for teaching, because Spirit was very adamant that what was to be included in this book was the work of what they call the artist, or who they simply call the artist. And so included in the book is a table of sacred geometry. And I'm not going to give away all the artwork tonight, just wanted to give a glimpse of a little bit of the artwork of the sacred geometry that's contained within the book. And so the final iteration is coming through for final proof and check for the soft cover and the hardcover version. We're very excited about that. I can hardly wait. And so those of you that have pre-ordered the book, you will be receiving it by month's end as promised. And David, as we wrap up tonight, I just want to say thank you for being my friend and for being an inspiration to me through your art and through who you are as a person, who you are as a soul, and for being you and the way that you shine your light out in this world. I just want to say thank you for that.
Oh, thank you. And I know I speak for many people when I say thank you for taking us on your journey and sharing your journey through this book, Prayers and Incantations, and your classes and your media, the Be Live things, all the ways that you share yourself with us. We appreciate it.
It's what we came here to do, Hans, to shine our light. You're right about that, Judy. Everybody has wonderful, special gifts that they've brought here to the earth plane. And I'm just delighted that I could spend some time this evening with David. He's a very busy man. He has a toddler at home, sweet Sophia, and a teacher by day, and an artist all day and all night long, a daddy and a husband. And so, David, thank you for taking the time.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.
Good night, everyone. Blessings be. Please come visit us, themysticsheart.com.